Today we're going to talk about the best troop type in Rise of Kingdoms. Is it infantry? Is it cavalry? Or is it archers? And this is actually important information when you decide how to specialize your account. So stick around in this video for the full list of considerations and my recommendation for the best troop type in Rise of Kingdoms. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and for those of you that are already subscribed to my channel, you had the opportunity to participate in a poll indicating which troop type is the strongest. Is it the cavalry, infantry, or archers? And I'll have the answer up on screen now. It was, not quite by a landslide, cavalry as the strongest, followed by infantry, and then archers were left way behind, and of course, I left siege units off the equation entirely. Now, if you want to be able to participate in these sorts of polls in the future, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on that sort of stuff and my regular uploads. I have over 1,800 videos dedicated to answering your questions about Rise of Kingdoms. But is cavalry actually the best troop type in Rise of Kingdoms? In this video, we're going to look at a bunch of things. We're going to look at the units' stats. We're going to get a look at the civilizations that are available. We're going to get a look at the commander depth, the equipment choices, and even the city themes. Now, of course, there are going to be timestamps, so you can jump to the portion of the video you are most interested in, and let's start with the base stats here. Now, I've got this up on screen, and I've already done some of the math in advance. Which unit is inherently better? Is it archers? Is it cavalry? Or is it your infantry? And the thing that is most noteworthy is actually the march speed. Because for some weird reason, the total number of base stats is just about the same for every troop type. But the march speed on your archers is a base of 70. The march speed on your infantry is a really, really terrible base of 65. And then the march speed on your cavalry is actually all the way up at 80. Technically 80. I got to actually switch to the T5 troop there. There you go. It's all the way up at 80. So the balance of the base stats we could get a look at: attack, defense, and health, but that just changes around with whatever special unit type you have. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal to see those shift around a little bit here or there. But what is really significant is 15 more base points of march speed on your cavalry. So when it comes to the units themselves, I've got to hand it to the cavalry. They're just faster. I don't see a downside here. I mean, okay, there is one downside, and it's visible on the screen, and that is the troop load. Cavalry carry slightly less, like ever so slightly less resources than an archer, and I guess you could say significantly less resources than infantry, but that's not what matters for most of what you're doing in the game. So in this regard, cavalry is an extremely strong troop. In fact, as a base unit, the strongest. But there's a bunch of other stuff we need to get a look at, starting with the civilizations themselves. And when we look at civilizations, you start to realize that archers are actually the big winner. If you're rallying, garrisoning, or fielding, you have good choices for your archers. Now, look, it's not that big of a deal. 5% of stats, 5% march speed, 5% skill damage, and the unit type. Okay, maybe it is kind of a big deal. But Ottoman for open field and for garrisoning is extremely good. And if you're rallying with archers, you've got Egypt. So slam dunk, no doubt about it. The archers actually have the very best civilization choices. Now, the next best option is actually going to be infantry. Whether you're rallying or garrisoning, you've got Vikings, which in my opinion, the counterattack is really, really premium. The 5% attack on the unit is also pretty good, the extra stats here. And for open fielding, you actually have France, which is really good for troop versatility. I mean, it's health for all troop types, and also you get some healing speed. So if you're actually going through more than just your healing speed ups, then you're probably starting to get a lot of value out of using France in the open field. I, in fact, am using this right now on my restart account. As it turns out, although cavalry have the best unit because of how fast they are, they have the worst civilization choices for actually fighting. And sure, you might say, but Chisgule, Germany is like so good for troop training. This is true. When you're not fighting, this is the civilization you generally want to be, like regardless of what troop type you care about the most. you want the extra troop training speed and the AP recovery that Germany gives you, and in the offseason, right? For rallying barb forts, you get the Cav special unit, extra Cav stats for whatever that's worth. But your cavalry civilizations are technically the worst for garrisoning and also for open fielding. This is because if you're open fielding, you've got to go with Ottoman, so you're not getting the benefit of actually having a special unit. You are not getting the benefit of the extra stats. You're just here for the march speed and the skill damage. Now, for rallying, cavalry do have Arabia, and Arabia is really premium. I would say the 5% rallied army damage that you get from cavalry and archers actually is better than that counterattack that we were talking about for your infantry. And that's really obvious. I mean, 5% all damage, it's better. The Vikings are more flexible, but the all damage is just better for the rally situation. So overall, I would say archers have the best civ choices, followed by your infantry, and then followed by cavalry. So now we need to go and get a look at commanders, right? Like, sure, okay, the units are good, but what commanders actually support what you want to do with them? And this is pretty important, and I think you'd be surprised that archers are actually, in my opinion, on top here as well. Now, archers have 8 or more really solid commanders for the open field. Now, I can try to click through some of these commanders as we go, but I think I'll just name them off. You've got Amani, Artemisia, Boudica, Tommy, Henry, Gilga, Nebu, Cyrus. Some people would say Ramses is still really great in the open field. You actually have a lot of commanders that you can use in the open field if you're playing with archers. And you even have one extremely premium pre-season of conquest commander. You can work on this guy like 90 days into your playing the game. Esong is extremely good. So archers actually have very strong commander depth. Now, your cavalry players will of course argue that although you've got like 8+ archer commanders, there's at least 6+ cavalry commanders that are extremely good as well. You've got XY, you've got Nevsky, you've got Joan, you've got William as your really premium commanders. You can buy your way into Minamoto, which for some people, that's going to be an extremely strong option. That's pre-season of conquest value. And you've also got Saladin, who at 5/5, 5/1, and you can get him pre-season of conquest, is extremely strong. So your cavalry are actually extremely good too. And you've got a few honorable mentions, I suppose. Like you could say Chandra is extremely good. You might consider that in your sort of premium open field options. You've got Bert, who is not the best open field commander, but is probably a little bit better than he gets credit for. So cavalry have some really good options. And I think most people wouldn't argue that if you were making like, I don't know, a 2v2 situation, right? Like 2 marches versus 2 marches. Cavalry probably win that. Like you've got XY, Nevsky, Joan, and William. Like that's kind of insane. William's not really designed for that sort of duel, but cavalry are really strong. They've got the commander depth. The big loser in the commander depth equation is actually the infantry, man. Like, yes, Guan Yu is really strong. And you've got Leo and you've got Skippy. And for open field, right, you've got to some extent, CJ. But what else have you got? You've got Alexander the Great, pre-season of conquest. Okay, Alexander the Great's really good. I'll give you that. Alexander the Great's really strong. You can work on him pre-season of conquest. But infantry probably have the least viable meta end game commanders right now. And hopefully we're just around the corner from getting a few more infantry commanders. Okay, hopefully that's the case. And there are some honorable mentions. Like you could say Pakal and Harold are good for cheeseburgering. You could say, well, you know, you get Charles and Richard and Constantine all pre-season of conquest. But I'm not going to argue that those are really meta in the open field. And you can make Charles work, right? Like Charles with Skippy, that works, okay? You can get there, but I don't think that's really like premium. So infantry are really the big losers so far for troop type, even though they were the second most voted for as the best troop type you could go for. I'm going to argue so far, they're actually kind of bottom of the barrel for where they're at. Now, releasing a few new commanders in the game could change the equation here, but there is one thing that changing out the commanders doesn't really help, and that's the equipment. And this is why I'm on my restart account to show this to you, because I wanted to talk about how archers actually have the best equipment options available. The best equipment options available. Not by a little, but actually by a lot. Not only is their 6-piece set the best 6-piece set, you actually want to run the whole thing. It's really, really strong. But also, they have an epic set. And the epic set's really good. In fact, it's so good that even on my main account, I have a set that is 4 epics, okay? And then I use the legendary set chest and the legendary set gloves. So I mention this because these are some really good equipment options. And although I'm using a legendary bow here, right? Like there's a bow that's got defense. You've got these epic boots that have health. You've got the 2-piece bonus for defense, and a set bonus of extra attack. Okay. And then you switch out those 2 legendary pieces I was talking about. I'll show them to you. They're so good. So I'm going to make the argument here that your archers actually have the best equipment options. Okay. If you were going for those set pieces on the archers, right? The set chest has health. The set gloves have attack, but the bonus is friggin' 3% attack. That's nice. Okay. So archers have the best gear, and that's actually followed, in my opinion, by cavalry. Now, the cavalry gear, sure, you do start out with like a green set, which is okay. We're not counting that. That's kind of like we're looking for the end game stuff. You have a blue set as well for cavalry. All right. Well, we're not really counting that as being ultra premium. The reason I say cavalry have probably the second best equipment options is that you actually can slam a shocking amount of health onto cavalry, a truly shocking amount of health. In fact, if we look at the cavalry that I've got right here, we can pull up the equipment. I've got it on Joan. The set chest gives health. The boots give health. The 2-piece bonus gives health. The helmet, you can go with a KVK helmet, gives defense. The epic weapon is giving defense. The epic legs are giving health. Okay, you can upgrade to Ash the Dawn to get even more health at the legendary tier. Heck, even the epic gloves are giving health. And this is really important because health is arguably the best stat in Rise of Kingdoms for the quality of your trades. So overall, I think you can get more stats. I think the set options are better on archers. But for cavalry, your ability to just jam so much damn health onto them makes your cavalry equipment really premium. I'd say number 2 overall. And infantry are somehow the losers again when it comes to equipment. Now, infantry do get a little bit of upside on their equipment, and let me explain that. I think infantry have the most free-to-play accessible equipment. That's really premium, by the way. What do I mean by that? You've got your Hope Cloak, which is ultra premium. You're upgrading from an epic attack item, okay, to boom, big freaking defense on a legendary item, big win. Technically, if you're upgrading to a legendary, people would consider it kind of a side grade to go from Karak's Humility to the Eternal Night legendary legs. But the fact that you can, in fact, get legendary legs, 100% free to play, you can even get Shio's Return boots. And yeah, I mean, I made one of those at one point, right? 100% free to play. I think your free to play accessibility of infantry gear is pretty good. And unfortunately, like the 4-piece bonus on the infantry set's pretty good. Okay, going for that like 10% march speed is actually pretty solid. But the 5% troop attack for 6 pieces of the infantry set, it's just okay. The only people going for the full infantry set is people who care the most about Ark of Osiris and your speed to take down an enemy. You care less about Sev wounds, which, by the way, most people would rather just focus on the trade quality. So I think infantry are once again kind of the losers on the equipment front. And unfortunately, infantry are also the losers when it comes to your city themes. And I think this is the final category that I want to get a look at today is what city theme options are available. Because unfortunately, right, like you can go with 5% health for any of these troop types. Infantry is no exception. I often use the old gingerbread house over here, okay? Because I've got 3 infantry marches, 1 cavalry, 1 archer. This is the Season of Conquest, KVK 4 and Beyond rewards shop. And I will say without a doubt, cavalry are the big winners here. Going for that 10% defense is a healthy upgrade from your 5% health, pun not intended. And you get some resource production on top of that, and you lose some infantry defense. Well, it sucks to lose infantry defense, but if you're running mostly cavalry marches, I think this is pretty damn solid as a city theme to choose, okay? This is not such a good city theme to choose if you're going for like 2 infantry marches, because now you're talking about losing 20% of infantry defense. That's not so good. But if you're running like 3 cavalry in the field, 1 infantry, 1 archer, I mean, your net gain here is pretty decent. Now, overall, you've also got access to Twilight Falls, right? If you cared more about damage output, and this would benefit all your troop types, including your infantry, by the way, Even though you lose 10% infantry attack, your infantry do gain the 5% skill damage. Twilight Falls is another really great option if you're a cavalry player. Now, if you're an archer player, you've got Twilight Falls as an option. You've got Flight of the Heron as an option, which is probably less premium than just going with a Twilight Falls, because you're probably using one march at least of each troop type. So Twilight Falls is still premium, and you've even got this Topkapi Palace. I mean, I don't know if anybody actually goes for this thing, but AP recovery is kind of nice. And at some point, when you've done enough of these damn KVKs, and you win enough of them, you do end up with, especially as a free-to-play or even low spender, more conquest coins than you know what to do with. And then this Topkapi Palace is basically free to you at that point. So I think that archers have some decent options here, and infantry have no good option. I personally use 5% health on my infantry marches over the Persian Dream. This is because if you look at the total stats gained, okay, I have 3 infantry marches. That's 15% of health gained on my infantry marches, minus 5% of some other stat from some other troop type. So it's like a net gain of 10% of total stats, because I have one other troop type that does get a negative stat. Whereas if I look at the Persian Dream, this is going to give me 3% for all 5 of my troop types. Okay, that's nice. That's a total of 15% of boosted stats, but then I lose 10% cav attack. So my net gain is 5% of stats and some healing speed. It's just not worth it to me. I'd rather just have the health. So infantry are the losers on the city theme front as well. So overall, who is the big winner? I honestly think I do need to hand it to the cavalry. I think that your commander choices are exceptional, and just the base march speed is so important, and it's very forgiving, okay? It's extremely forgiving for players that are less experienced in the game or that just get themselves into bad situations. This is also because, and now I'm on my Kingdom 2 account, don't mind me here, it's almost 40 million power, which is actually kind of insane, but the talent options on your cavalry. Every cavalry commander has charge. When you get below 50% of strength, you gain 30% march speed. I mean, cavalry have to be the most forgiving and easy to use and overall very strong troop type in the game. And if they had a better open field civilization, which perhaps it's only a matter of time when that will happen, I think they're the kings of the open field. But I think they're followed very closely by the archers. And I think the archers are super underestimated for how good they are in field, especially if you look at the poll. And people often feel like they are bullied by cavalry because, okay, you know, the cavalry do counter your archers. And you do feel the pain of that right away because of how purchasable and easy to access Minamoto is. So I definitely get the problem there. But if we just look at the, you know, countering restraining mechanisms here, right? Like cavalry counters archers, and you really feel the pain of when a cavalry march is sitting on you if you're an archer player, because you can't get away. Not only can you not get away because you are slightly slower, but also when they lose health, they can chase you even better. So this is a little unfortunate for archers, but I'd still put them at number 2 for now. I think infantry will almost certainly see a little bit of a revival with some new commanders coming into the game. Who knows when exactly that will happen. And maybe formations will change up the mix. So if you're looking for more information about how formations could completely change things up, I'm going to have a card in the end screen in just a second. It's going to be right over here in that end screen. And also, if you're looking for more information about specializing in a troop type, I really think these days you want at least one march of each troop type, because the commanders are just so powerful that the best infantry march you want to have. You want Guan Skippy. You want to have the best archer march. You want a Boudica Prime with, let's go with Esong, right? You want to have that, even if you're a cavalry player. But if you want to see more information about the benefit of specializing in a troop type, there'll be a card right over here in just a second in the end screen.